Hello. Okay, I am live. Let me just adjust everything here. So everything is okay. So today we're doing our book club discussion for Thistlefoot, and I'm just going to set this behind me because it's a big, awkward book. And I'll wait and see if a few more people come before we start the full discussion. Actually, I'm going to want that back out a little bit because I was going to read a few of my favorite passages because it was just, there was a lot of that. so let me know in the comments, did you love this book or not? Because I thought this was like amazing, and I'm so glad I chose it for book club, because I feel like if I hadn't made myself read it for book club, it probably would just languish on my bookshelf for ages before I got around to reading it. But I'm so glad I finally read it. It's exactly the book I wanted it to be, even though I didn't really know what it was going to be. Oh, hi, Mickey. I'm so glad to see you. It's been a while since you were in book club. But yeah, this book was just exactly what I wanted. I knew it was going to have to do with mythology. I knew it like had some like Eastern, like European folklore. I knew it was a Baba Yaga story, but I had no idea going in like what it was going to be. And I was just like so happy reading it. Like it was just so good. Although it was a sad story, I will say I didn't cry. I thought for sure I would cry at the end, but like I didn't. I just got like very like emotional. Like, you know how when you just you have to stop reading and just stare into the distance for a minute and like let that soak in. That was me reading like chapter 43, I think. But I gave it 5 stars. I loved it. I went and like, I don't know, you guys, I feel like I don't know how to talk about this book. So like I'm so glad we read it for book club, but also like I don't know how to like lead a discussion of this book. I don't know how to talk about it. I've been sitting here, I finished it I think Thursday night, and I've been sitting here ever since going like, how do I talk about this book? Like how do I express what I loved about it? How do I talk about it? So I even looked up to see if I could find like discussion questions to help me like pull my thought. No, there are none. So you're going to have to bear with me. And like, I don't know, we'll see where this goes. All I can tell you though, is that I absolutely loved it. It's definitely going to be in my top 10 right now. I'd say it is my favorite book I've read this year so far. It's definitely going to make my top 10. I can't imagine what I'm going to read that's going to like top it. But right now I just love it. Okay. Maggie, hi Maggie. Maggie says, I knew nothing either. My first surprise was that it took place largely in the US in modern day. I did know that. I knew that it was a contemporary story. I didn't know specifics. I thought perhaps they were going to travel to Russia, but I didn't realize it was just going to take place in the US. But I knew it was modern day. And I was pleasantly surprised by the like historical element because I didn't expect that. And I loved it. I loved how the author did this. I will say, and I'm going to link it somewhere for you guys. I found on YouTube, there is like over an hour long video of the author, Jenna Rose Nethercott, giving like presentation, a discussion at a library in her hometown about the book. And she, oh my gosh, you guys, if you haven't found this yet, it's great. She does this whole like thing. She has a house on chicken legs that she like uses like with puppets and stuff to perform a few of the chapters with the house character. So like when Thistlefoot has a chapter, she does this like it's amazing. I'm gonna link it for you guys because I just thought it was great. And I'm sad that I wasn't able to see her do this in person because I probably would have like lost my mind. But it was great. So I'm going to link that for you guys in the comments later. And it was really good. And she's delightful, by the way. Like that, just the whole thing she does is great. So, but I do know that I want to say she's a poet. She started out as a poet. And so her writing, I can tell, knowing that, like her writing is just like beautiful. Like I don't it was just such good writing, and the way the house chapters worked. Uh I listened to the audiobook too, and the narrator is fantastic. And the audiobook narrator, when they did the chapters for Thistlefoot's chapters, it just sounded like an old Jewish grandmother telling a story. And it was great. I just loved it. So again, don't know how to talk about this book. So let's try. I did try to make some notes and I'm not good at it, but like I try to like think about things like we could talk about. Like so or my overall thoughts I've given them. Like I loved it. It was amazing. I loved the whole element of how the house like was a protector. I loved how the author wove in the stuff about the pogroms and like how the house came into being and how that happens like slowly throughout the book. Like it builds to it. It doesn't just like start with that. Like I loved it so much. Like um so I'm trying to think like how to talk about like specifically what I loved about the story. Like I like how the author, she says it too in the video I was talking about, how she like took the Baba Yaga story, which is a traditional like Russian folklore kind of thing, and made it into a Jewish story. And I just thought that was really great because I have never seen anyone do that before. And there's a lot of Jewish folklore to work with, but I really loved how she took something that wasn't really ours, but made it ours. Like I just thought that was really interesting. Maggie says the book was like magical realism meets historical fiction. Yes, it was. I really liked the way the author used like generational trauma to tell the story, and like how these characters, Isaac and Valentine, didn't really understand where their like trauma was coming from. They didn't know why they had these abilities or why they had these things. And it just, I just thought it was so good. Yeah, Maggie, no, yeah, it's not Jewish. I've only ever heard of Baba Yaga as in like specifically Russian folklore. So, but like Jewish people, there was a lot of Jews in Russia at the time. So like it makes sense for us to be able to use that too. So like I get that. Like my family was from Russia. Um and left because of the pogroms. So like it makes sense to me for that to work for the story. I don't know. The Thistlefoot chapters are my absolute favorite part of the whole book. But I also really like Valentine. So let's talk about favorite characters. Who was your favorite character overall? I'm thinking for me, it's a cross between Thistlefoot and Valentine. I just thought both of those characters made the story for me. I thought Valentine's ability was really interesting, and I was not expecting golems to happen, but when that did, like golems are like my favorite thing, so I was very pleasantly like happy and surprised that we got golems in the story. I'm still trying to decide if I think Thistlefoot is a golem, because obviously that's what Winnie was. Like Winnie was a golem who was able to like have more human characteristics as the story went on, which is a thing that I really enjoy in the golem mythology. Like a golem is meant to be like this mindless being who just does what the master tells it. But my favorite thing in stories is when the golem starts to develop its own feelings and wants and needs, you know, like the golem and the Ginny and what was that other book I read? Now I can't remember the name of it. And it's not downstairs, so I can't look it on my shelf. It was an Alice Hoffman book. The World That We Knew, maybe something like that. Where the golem starts to like take on its own personality. So I thought that was great. That Winnie did that too. But I think Thistlefoot is kind of a golem too. The way Thistlefoot comes into being and becomes a protector, I feel like made it kind of a golem. I don't know. I can't decide if I'm reading that right, but for me, I felt like it was. So I'm gonna go with it. And I really liked the Winnie stuff too. Like that was really, really interesting. The way the character like starts to like become her own person, and I just thought all of that was really interesting. The embering, I thought was really cool. I'd never seen that specific kind of thing in a story before, so I really, really liked that. Okay, was there anything you disliked about the book? I'm trying to think about like what did I not particularly like? I'm gonna say, while I didn't completely hate the character of Isaac, I didn't connect with him anywhere near as much as I did with Valentine. I felt like she was a much more likable character. She was easier for me to understand. The whole shape-shifting thing, I don't know, it was kind of weird. I get it, and it made sense to me. I understand why the author did that. I had a hard time picturing it. I couldn't picture Isaac at all. Like I couldn't figure out what he looks like, and I don't know, that I struggled a bit with that. Mickey says to me, this was multiple stories that all merged into a greater one. It was. I really like stories like that, where you have a lot of different things happening and then they all kind of come together. It kind of reminded me a little bit of The Golem and the Ginny. If you haven't read that, it has like a similar thing going on where you've got this character's story and this character's story and this character's story, and they don't seem like they make sense, and then all of a sudden they sort of entwine together in such a beautiful way. So I really loved seeing like all these different stories kind of come together. Yeah, I agree with you, Mickey. The storyline, was it Benji? Benji? Let me tell you something. I read a bunch of the story via audio without the book because I was listening to it while I was doing other things. And I had a migraine a week ago when I started the book, and I listened to, I don't know, like several chapters via audio while I was having a migraine, which was probably in hindsight not the time to listen to a book that I knew I was going to have to talk about later. But I was like, I can do this. Like it'll help me be distracted. And I was like, what did I listen to? Like I had such a hard time figuring out who Benji was and where he came from. And I kept thinking I missed something. And I had to keep going back and like rereading those passages because I was like, what? Who? Why? And like in the end, it didn't really matter. Like I feel like that could have been left out and it would not have mattered because it didn't really add anything to the story. So like I get why it was there. It just I didn't think it needed to be there. The only reason I remembered his name was because I was so confused about who he was. I was like, wait, who's Benji? Where did he come from? When did we meet him? Who is he? Like, where is he? And it took me way longer than it should have to figure out why he was there. But it's because I listened to a lot of it via audiobook while having a migraine. And, you know, probably not the best idea to do that, but it's fine. I will say I wish I'd annotated the whole thing because there were so many beautiful passages, but you can see I only started annotating at the end because I decided I was going to like read it with my eyes while I was listening because I really liked the audio. So that's when I started like throwing some tabs in because there are some just amazingly beautiful passages that I'm going to do a reread sometime and annotate the whole thing. Yeah, I found the whole thing with Isaac and Benji to be a little bit weird because it just felt very much like a separate story entirely. Like I don't know what it had to do with everything else that was going on, and it just felt like it didn't belong. So that was probably the only thing though that I didn't really like, and I can forgive it. I just feel like the author was trying to do too much. Okay, Maggie says, I thought Isaac did worse things to other people than to Benji, and Benji's death wasn't even Isaac's fault. Yeah, I agree. Like, he did a lot of like not nice things to people. So for that to be the one thing that he like really stuck with, I also felt, and I don't even know how to word what I want to say. I felt like the Isaac Benji stuff felt like it didn't fit like the time period. Like that felt very like 1930s hobo. Like what was like why did they talk the way they did, and why it didn't make sense to me. But like, do people still ride the rails? And like, I didn't know that that was even a thing that people still did. And it felt weird. I don't know. But yes, I agree, Mickey. I did also really like the found family aspect of the story. That part I loved. I loved all of that. I loved them all coming together. I also want to say that I really enjoyed the whole puppeteering thing. That's just not a thing you see a lot of in books, with like people running a puppet theater and turning Thistlefoot into a theater for a puppet show. Like, I thought that was great. I keep telling Sarah she needs to read this. She doesn't have a copy in Korea, but I'm like, Sarah, this is a book for you. You have to read it. And I keep not telling her things about it, just like, you need to read it, because she is very into puppets. So I felt like that element of the story was just so great, and like something that I know she would love. Like, I would absolutely go see a puppet show in a house with chicken legs. Like, very cool. Yes. Although I had a hard time picturing, like, they received this house in a box, and I can't imagine, like, is it a scenario where it's bigger on the inside than on the outside? Because like, what the heck, how do you get a house in a box? How big is the box? How does it get there? I that part I was like really struggling to visualize. But I thought it was very cool. Like, imagine getting an inheritance and you find out that it's a house on chicken legs, and like, I would love this. I would very much love this. I would love to get a house. But yeah, is it bigger when you go inside? Because like, I can't fathom like how you would ship it. Like, how does it get in the box? That's interesting to me. Like, I would love to see this adapted. I feel like this would be very cool to see as like a TV series, because I want to see it. I feel like there's a lot of really weird stuff happening that would look really cool done by the right people. Like, I don't know. I just think it would be very fun. Yeah, Maggie's, yeah, the weirdest part of the story to me was that no one ever was surprised by the house on chicken legs, and yet nothing else like this seems to exist. Yeah, like, it's just a house on chicken legs. Like, what's weird about that? Nothing. I think that would be really fun though, to see it as like a TV show. Let's cross our fingers and hope, because I think like of all the things that get adapted nowadays, like, let's do something new. Like, I want to see something different and new, and like, we've not seen anything like Thistlefoot on TV before. So I really hope that that gets adapted. Yeah. You know, it felt very very cinematic. There was a lot of moments in the story that like were so well described that like I could picture it. Like, it felt like it wants to be a movie. It was so beautiful. Like, the writing in this book is gorgeous. And I did like I said, I wish I'd annotated more, but I did pull out some moments that I was just like, that was beautiful, and I want to remember it. Like, what did I mark here? Let me see which passages I want to talk about. Oh, yes. Okay. This section here, I'm just going to like read you guys some of my favorite moments because like I just think they're beautiful. Um let's see. Where do I want to start here? What of the parts where memory and loss and yearning are stored? Surely they were still out there somewhere, gone to wherever the forsaken are banished, wandering burnt out Alabama plantations, the fields rancid with enslaved sorrow, across tracks built by Chinese rail workers, shot en masse, come payday to save a dime, into full plotted cemeteries behind Indian boarding schools, and beneath the shadows of burning crosses, white hoods peaked like snow-capped mountains, over the grounds of Manzanar and Potter's Fields, glutted with migrant peach pickers, who gets remembered in the great American experiment, and who is forgotten? Who becomes of those, what becomes of those whose names are dust? Tell me this country ain't haunted. Like, that I just like, I had to stop reading for a minute after that and just like take it in. Her writing is just everything I want in a book. Mickey says, did they ever explain why Winnie remained animated? I'm pretty sure she's a golem, but that she's not. I don't know if they explained it, but like I feel like she's a golem that isn't going to be unanimated. like you're supposed to for a golem, they have like a mark on their head and you say a certain word or prayer and that brings them to life. And then when you say a different variation of that prayer, they like stop having life in them. But the way Valentine's like magic works, I don't think for her golem did that. So I don't know. I'm not exactly sure why she stayed animated, but I thought it was really interesting. It was a really interesting part of the story. Ooh, Maggie, yes. I kept thinking the whole time, like, this would be so great to read aloud. Like, I just feel it has such, like, great read out loud ability. Like, it just sounds like it would, like, flow really well. And there were so many passages. Although I don't know that I could get through chapter 43 without, like, breaking down. Like, I felt like I was okay reading it, but I don't know if I could do it up as a read aloud. But now I kind of want to. I feel like it would be really great. I would love to try to take on the Thistlefoot voice. I also really like the part about witness being a testimony. Witnessing something isn't just watching, it's being there, it's experience, it's being able to tell about it later. I felt that was really, really powerful. The thing about like the people living in, what was the name of the town? I can't remember. I know I can't find it. But the people in the shtetl having their names repeated and like them saying their names over and over and having them like their names said aloud. That was so powerful and beautiful. And I just found like, I loved that. What else did I tap? Like, I'm pretty sure I just like marked the entirety of chapter 43. Like, that was just like everything. The best part of the book for me. I don't even know. I can't even explain it. It was so sad, but so powerful. It kind of reminded me a lot of The Book Thief, and just like it's so devastating, but so beautiful at the same time. Like, I don't know how to reconcile that. Like, how it can be so beautiful. Yes, get him. Yeah, I couldn't find that. The part about their abilities being generational trauma, like the need to run, the need to escape and be able to get away and hide. And yeah, her ability to reanimate and give life when so much life was taken away. Like, I just, I don't know. This book was so good. It was great. I'm so glad that I read it because like I said, it would still be sitting on my shelf right now. I would be like, yeah, I should get to that someday. I'm so glad that I did finally pick it up and read it, and that we got to read it together. Like that just makes it better, I think. I feel like I put a lot more thought into the books when I'm doing them as a book club. So I definitely will be reading more of her writing. I hope she writes more things. Yes, Mickey, I agree. Something about like Russian history. Russian history is dark. So it's always like tragic and beautiful at the same time. Yeah. Oh, I agree, Maggie. That was like maybe the hardest part of the book to read. Like I was just I don't know. I think I was like almost in shock by it. Like I knew something like that was going to happen. Like I just had a feeling that there was something really upsetting coming. Um, and that was really, really hard. Very sad. Like I don't know. For some reason, this book cover makes you think fun, silly romp, and you don't know what you're gonna get when you read it. Like the cover does not, it's beautiful, but I feel like it doesn't quite give you the essence of what the story's gonna be. Yeah, when I realized that that was the fire that never went out, ugh, it felt right, but also very sad. Like, whew, this book though, it was so good. Like I really hope Jenna Rose Nethercott writes lots and lots of books because I feel like if this was her debut, I can't wait to see what she's gonna do next because I just feel like this was so good. This was such a great debut. Like I can't even imagine if I wrote something that beautiful. I probably would just be like, "That's it. That's my magnum opus. I'm done now." Like I don't know that I would be able to top it. So I'm very excited to see what she does next. Okay, does anyone else have any other thoughts and or things you want to talk about the story? I think we've covered all the things, all my little notes that I wrote down. Um, the whole element with the long shadow man, I don't think we touched on that. That was really interesting too. How he was like a moment in time. I don't even know how to explain what he was. Like that was really a really interesting plot element that he was coming for the house because the house was able to escape that moment in time and it was time for it to go. Like I thought that was very, very interesting. So I don't really know exactly how to word my thoughts there, but I thought that was a really interesting element of the story. You know, Maggie, same. Yeah, the Dust Breakers, or yeah, I think that's what they were called. Yeah, they were really an interesting element of the story too, but they were so hard for me to grasp, like as characters. Like I didn't quite feel like I got to know any of them very well. Like I feel like the story was already pretty long, wasn't it? Like more than 400 pages. So I don't know that we needed more time with them, but maybe we needed more development from them or something. I'm not sure. The rest of the story was so great that I'm willing to like keep it a 5 star and let that slide. Is like I feel like I missed something, but maybe on a reread that will click better. Maybe. I don't know. I always feel like when I do a reread, it's almost like reading it for the first time again because I know some things, but there's always new things that I missed the first time. So perhaps on a reread, I will get more out of their characters and I don't know. We'll see, I guess. But yeah. So yeah, does anyone else have any thoughts about the story? You know, Maggie, I would have probably read it if it was 600 pages and been fine with the length. I know I did go and look at some reviews, and there was a surprising amount of people giving it low ratings or DNFing it because it was too long or too descriptive and things like that. And I'm like, well, those are things that I liked about it. So I don't know. Like maybe they read it wrong. But like, I don't know. I feel like this is a book you're either going to love it or you're not. And I don't know. I'm surprised though, because for me, it was like almost a perfect book. So I'm always surprised when I see lots of people like DNFing or disliking a book that I thought was amazing. I'm like, but why? But yeah, I would have been fine with it being a little bit longer. I wouldn't have minded that. And especially if we got more character development from the Duskbreaker characters, because I feel like I wanted a little more from that. And with Winnie too, I would love to know more about like what happened after. I would have loved an epilogue, honestly, like one more chapter. Just let me know how everything is going now. That would have been great for me. Yeah. But overall, I still loved it. I still think this was an amazing book. I can't wait to reread it someday. Like, I don't know when I'll get to it, but I'm very excited to do that, to read it again, to annotate it, to like really sink into it some more. Oh, yeah, that's a good point, Maggie. That reading it after the German wife, there are some connections. Yeah. Um, I felt like this was a very, very Jewish book. Like it was very much a story about Jewish trauma and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I can see the connection. Oh, I agree with you too, Mickey. Like, yeah, we didn't need necessarily more story added on. We could have just lost the Benji stuff. Yeah. Honestly, that would have worked for me too. Like, I'm good either way, I guess. Like, I don't know. I'm wondering what I'll think about all of that too when I reread it. Like, will it make more sense? Will I get more out of the Benji plot? Will that like connect better? I don't know. I feel like this book is one of those ones that I'm going to read it like several times and get something new out of it each time I read it. Because I know that was the case for me with like The Book Thief. I've read that, I don't even know how many times at this point, 10 times maybe, and like every time I read it, something new will jump out at me. So I'm really interested to see like when I reread this, what new thing jumps out at me. Ooh, that's a good point. Maggie says, and the need to remember and witness versus trying to wipe people's history clean. Operation. Yes, that's a really good point. Like, and I feel like it's relevant too. Like, we're doing that right now, like trying to eliminate things from our history and erase things from our history that we don't like or that we don't feel paints America in the best way. And rather than like witnessing it and talking about it and reconciling with it. So, yeah, I just think that's such an important thing to talk about. And yeah, I don't know. To me, it was just so good, so relevant and so interesting and such a different kind of story. And I haven't read anything quite like that. And so I'm really glad we did. Okay. Ooh. I would love to do that. I don't know when that'll happen, but yeah, I would love. There are so many books that I want to like write units for that like it's a lot and I don't know, but maybe someday. Like, do I have the Book Thief in something? I think I used the Book Thief in the World War II unit. So I think I already did the book thief. I'm pretty sure it's in the World War II unit. So I've already kind of done that. But yeah, there are so many books. There's just so little time. But I could definitely see like writing a high school level literature unit for Thistlefoot because there is so much there to talk about. So many beautiful passages for dictation, so many just beautiful moments. And yes, I could definitely see myself doing something with that. Oh gosh, you know what, Mickey? Every time, literally, like I said, I've read it like 10 times, probably more than that. I'm not even sure at this point. I'm just guessing. But every single time I read The Book Thief, I go, this time I will handle this well. This time I will not cry. I know what's going to happen. I am prepared and I'll be fine. And literally every time I'm a sobbing mess. I can't do it. I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, this last time when I read it with Regina as a read aloud, and I got to that part of the story, and I was crying and talking and like and she turns to me and she goes, "You sound just like Liesel should sound right now." I was like, "Yeah, I bet I do." So yeah, I don't know. Every time I think I can handle it, it's like, no, just kidding. I can't. I'm broken. So reading sad things aloud is so hard. And it happens to me all the time because, like, even when something isn't necessarily sad, I make it sad in my, like, I don't know. Like, sometimes if it's a story that I just really love, I will get, like, worked up because it's coming to an end. And I just, like, I don't know. Like Watership Down is a really good example of that. I'm reading that right now too with Regina, and like I always cry just a little bit at the end, even though it's not sad necessarily. Like it is, but it isn't. It's just one of those things. Just like I always cry at the end of Lord of the Rings when Sam comes home and he's like, "Well, I'm back," and I'm like, "And I'm gonna cry now." So certain stories just aren't allowed to end. So yeah, I get myself really worked up and it's embarrassing sometimes. My kids are used to it, I think. They know what to expect. They know mother's gonna cry. But yeah. Okay, so our next book is going to be Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. This is by Gabrielle Zevin. And I know very little about this. Like, I like going into books not really knowing what to expect. So I really don't know what to expect with this. All I know is the very bare minimum that it is about two people and they have a platonic relationship and they build this video game empire. And it's like the story of their lives over like a few decades. I don't know. And that's all I know. I've just heard so many people say this is amazing. And I thought, you know what? Why don't we do this for book club? Because it feels like this is probably going to be a book I'll want to talk about. So I don't know. I'm very excited. I'm hoping I can get the audio for this. They have it on, I want to say it was on Libby, but I'm on a wait list. And I don't know. Sometimes it goes quick and sometimes it doesn't. I'm hoping I do get the audio for it though, but I guess we'll see. We'll see if it gets to me in time. But I'm looking forward to it because it's not the kind of book I would normally pick up. I feel like I tend to stay in like the comfort zone of like history, sci-fi, and like historical fantasy and that sort of thing. So I don't do a lot of contemporary. And so I'm really curious like what I'll think of it. But I don't know. I've heard so many people tell me that it's amazing. I've seen so many good reviews. So I'm just like, now it's just curiosity is going to get to me. So I have to read it. So we're going to read it together. I'm going to get this up on the Discord later today. So like if anyone's already started, they can jump in and talk about it. So yeah, I'm excited for it. We'll see what we think. I'm hoping that I like it. I'm so nervous whenever I read a book that I feel like is really, really hyped up and like everybody loves it. Like, am I going to be that one person that doesn't like it? I don't know. So I'm really hoping that I love it. And I'm looking forward to reading it with you guys. So I'm going to go ahead, I think, and wrap this up. So thank you guys so much for coming today and chatting with me. I'm so glad that we get to do this. It's so much fun. I look forward to it every month, getting to get on here and just gush about a book, or not if I didn't enjoy it. So thank you so much for coming, and I will see you guys next time. Happy reading. Bye.